Hey everybody, how's it going? Real quick, I want to apologize for my voice being the way it is. This past Friday night was the very first show with Surrender to Eden at the Sherman Theater in Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, and the show was an overwhelming success. The band killed. On the way home, I gradually felt sicker and sicker and sicker. I got hit with the biggest case of the flu I've ever had, and I just mustered enough strength to watch the Super Bowl last night, which congratulations to those of you out there who are Philadelphia Eagles fans. Job well done with that dominating win against the Chiefs. And for all of you smug Chiefs fans that were getting a little cocky with your trash talking, I hope this has humbled you a little bit. This isn't a hot take, but could we stop the Patrick Mahomes is the GOAT conversation? No. I think he was outscored in Super Bowl losses by over 40 points, and Tom Brady in his Super Bowl losses were only outscored by like 15 points or whatever. And I'm sorry, Mahomes is fantastic, but I don't think anyone that you or I will ever see play this game will ever have a 28-3 moment that Brady had in that Super Bowl. Down 28-3, like 5 minutes left in the third quarter, and he comes back, ties the game, and wins the Super Bowl in overtime. Don't get me wrong. I mean, they won 2 Super Bowls in a row. They got to a third, and then they won another Super Bowl 2 years prior to this. So it's not like they're a slump team. They're damn good. But this whole Mahomes is the GOAT conversation, we're done. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. But enough about that. You guys wanted to dish out some hot takes. I put it in your guys' hands to see if this series could take off. You guys clearly wanted this series to take off, so let's get right to it. So some of you need a better explanation as to what a hot take is. And I'm sorry, Jimmy272, I'm going to call you out here for this one. He says, my hot take, if your arrangement sucks, you can throw all the gear and musicians to your band. No mix will sound good. If the arrangement is excellent, however, and all the instruments tailored or sound on stage already work together, guitars use an EQ, specific speakers, and specific guitar cab, blah, 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 blah. This is also valid for the arrangement. If that's the case, using all analog amps can work. Sadly, most have not enough knowledge to create an excellent stage sound that just needs reinforcement by the PA, hence why modelers work so great. This hot take comes from a musician and a sound engineer. That, my friend, is not a hot take. It's a very informative opinion, but that's also straight up fact. We all know this. Any next level band and any next level sound engineer knows that if you have the right musicians playing the right gear in the right environment and using the settings that they know and know how to sculpt their own sound, the mix will come together effortlessly. A band that knows how to play their instruments well together is going to sound a hell of a lot better than a band with millions of dollars worth of equipment but don't know how to wipe their own ass. So what you're saying, it's truthful. It's not a hot take. A hot take is what Monty D1 said. Electric drums I think you meant to put electric drums are superior to acoustic drums. That is a hot take, and a scorcher of a hot take. Holy moly. I nearly spit out my drink when I first read that. Electric drums are very good for one, possibly two reasons. One is if you live in an apartment complex and you have thin walls where people would hear a drum set being played, and you would piss off your neighbors if you were playing an acoustic drum set, then okay, work with what you got. The only other instance where I would expect an electric drum set to be quote unquote superior is in a small church environment where the whole band is crowded into like one little corner, and The electric drum set is there to just solely not have drum bleed in every other mic on stage. That is probably the only other reason why I would be okay with an electric drum set over an acoustic drum set. But any other situation, real drums will always sound better. Real drums will always give drummers their own unique voice. If you get a drummer where he or she knows every single square inch of their drum set and they keep it masterfully in tuned and they play it like there's no tomorrow, a real drum set will always have a certain level of life to it that oh man, it's tough for me to even like take this opinion seriously. Like, no, real drums are always going to be better than electric drums. So that right there is a prime example of a hot take. That's a scorcher. That's incredible. Okay, another one from Bryce and Eve NZ. Oh man, we want hot takes. Okay, well, here's one. Computing and audio has only served to make it easier to hide mistakes, be that from sound engineers or artists. Not a hot take, that's just fact. Seriously, Waves plugins, while they sound good when used as they should be, they cover so many tonal differences in a performer's voice, it's not funny. Again, not a hot take, just fact. Also, if the performer's just bad, let it shine. I actually agree with that. If most people on my church videos go like, oh my god, put auto-tune on the vocal. No. Let the singer sing. I don't care if they sing off-key once in a while. It's their human voice. That's what makes us human. Hey readers, I know Chris doesn't use Waves, but also I know a shite ton of you front of house guys do, so consider yourselves roasted. Yeah. The amount of comments I get from people saying, why don't you use Waves for your front of house gigs? Johannes FR says, I would have gone with the SM58. The Neumann is overpriced and probably doesn't need to be anymore, but at least it's quite special. It's always roll of the dice which product gets to be popular in the industry standard. I'm not even sure things can be overrated. If people enjoy it or it works for them because of a particular reason, then so be it, the majority spoke. That's not a hot take. If anything, that's succumbing to I don't know how to describe it, but it's that umbrella of just black fog that is the term industry standard. And that term makes any piece of gear, no matter how good or bad it might be the thing that everyone uses. I mean, take it from the mixing engineer point of view. On my DAW behind me, I use Logic Pro. I can't tell you how many times bands and musicians have said no to working with me because I said I don't use Pro Tools. And when I asked them, like, hey, you guys liked the sound of my mixes, you guys liked my approach, we literally were just about to sign the contract to work together, but now you're backing out. Why? Like, is this something I said? And you wouldn't be surprised how many times the band said, we just don't trust someone who doesn't use Pro Tools and not the industry standard. And I'm dumbfounded when people say that. I can't stand the term industry standard. In fact, that's probably my hot take of the week, is the term industry standard needs to go away completely, because that term gives excuse to gear snobbery, and it gives a green light to egotistical, judgmental behaviors. For instance, I film right now on a Sony camera. I've had potential photo clients, again, who looked at my Instagram reel, looked at my photos, looked at my body of work, and they're like, oh wow, this looks good. Do you use Canon? No, I use a Sony system. Oh, well, see, I want someone who uses Canon because Canon is more professional. Like, I cringe at the very idea of someone making a business decision because someone else says it's the industry standard. I refuse to ever use Pro Tools. I'm never going to give Avid a subscription based purchase from me every month. Logic was a one-time purchase of $200. That's it. From there, I get all the updated features. I get every new plugin that comes out on every new version of the software. I don't need to pay Apple anymore. But the point I'm trying to make is I can't tell you how many potential clients I've lost both in audio and photo/video over the years, where I told them what gear I had, and they went from wanting to work with me, yes, we're going to work with you, gun-ho, to actually, we're not going to work with you anymore because you don't use industry standard gear. I fucking hate that term. I fucking hate the people who use it, and I really especially fucking hate the gear snobbery and elitism that phrase causes people. It's a horrible phrase. It needs to die. So that's my hot take of the week. Anyway, moving back to your guys' hot takes. Brian is Brined 9255 says, my hot take is that stereo audio is extremely overrated and not the magic that everyone seems to think it is. That, my friend, is a hot take. So, for many reasons. I mean, if you mix everything in mono and leave it as mono, you're leaving out that opportunity to have separation with your instruments. Now, I highly recommend if you're mixing a record or if you're mixing, live sound, mix everything in mono first, because if you can get it sounding good in mono, when you start panning shit and, separating the guitar tracks, separating the drums, the overheads, everything will sound so much better. Whereas if you just panned it and then mixed, that's really that's a huge piece of advice that if I can give you guys. That's something that I learned from Graham Cochran of the Recording Revolution years back. He mixed everything in mono and then he panned near the end of the whole mixing process. It's one of the last things that I do before I move on to the mastering process and final mixdown. I leave it in mono for pretty much 90% of the way there. So yeah, there are benefits to mixing in mono and listening in mono, but as far as a sonic experience, I mean, I don't think Dark Side of the Moon would sound better if it was everything down the center in mono. If you're gonna put on that album or any, psychedelic rock and, have a good trip, the stereo spectrum just makes everything so much more intuitive. So, yeah, Brian, that's a good hot take. So we got a very, very long comment from Falling Griffin Feathers here. Fully agree that the U87 is overrated. Various Neumann clones, namely Warm Audio, get 98% of the way there for 40% of the price for anything that Neumann makes nowadays. However, of course there's a however, I will partially disagree with no microphone is worth that much. There we go. I say, because this is someone who probably spent a lot of money on microphones and wants to justify his purchase. I say partially because I can agree that no single microphone capsule is realistically worth over $3,000. But as someone with a choral orchestral background, mixing rock bands during the week, chorus, blah, 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 a solid stereo microphone system is worth its weight in gold. Thinking Schoep's MSTC 74U or Earthworks Pionomic, it's not that you can't get good enough. I never said good enough. I said just as good. Listen to what I say. Sound from cheaper mics, but those systems are plug and play, no adjustments needed. The headaches saved make the cost insignificant, and that's what I tell myself. Any piece of gear, no matter what the price, if it solves a problem and it works for you, fine. I really have no issues whatsoever if you buy a Neumann U87 because you honestly believe it works for you and you like how it sounds and you like the results you get and you're happy with the purchase. I just think you got ripped off and you are a sheep of that quote-unquote industry standard dark cloud of depression and misery that the pro audio industry seems to have a whole lot of trolls in. I'm not talking trolls as in they'll make fun of you. I'm talking about the gremlins that, you know, like the hills have eyes, like mutants like that live on the Gear Sluts forums that do absolutely nothing to help you with advice. I remember when I was first starting out, I joined Gear Sluts and I just asked some simple questions of where to get started, and it was post after post after post of people saying to me, tough shit, kid, unless you got 20 grand, you ain't gonna make worth a damn. Like, you need, one person was like, you need an SSL 3000 console with, you know, Neve preamps, and you need all of this expensive analog gear to get any snare drum that sonically sounds pleasant. I've never joined and unjoined a forum quicker than Gear Sluts. These are the type of gremlins that I think of when I hear the term industry standard, because the cretins of Gear Sluts forums help fuel this industry standard thing. And I really hate the kind of person that phrase transforms someone into. You can be one day pretty humble and cool, and next thing you start saying industry standard, and next thing you know, you're just a dick and I don't want to talk to you anymore. So again, I just can't fucking stand that term. So Falling Griffin Feathers has 3 hot takes. Here we go, guys. Ribbon microphones are stupid and a waste of money. Fact, I've never purchased a ribbon microphone before. Probably never will. I've gotten great results with dynamics and condensers. I've never felt the need to get a ribbon. And it's more like analog studio guys that, you know, justify the ribbons. You basically need to spend over $1,000 to get something that sounds almost as good as a $300 condenser, but with way too much bottom end. Yeah, that, and they're fragile. I totally agree with you on that. What mic you place in front of a guitar cabinet matters so much less than where in the cabinet it is placed. Thank you, someone gets it. Seriously, an SM57 or an E609 at the right spot will sound so dang close to anything else you put in their place. Yes. Thanks. Hold on. Thank you, sir, for speaking some fact here. A $100 SM57 placed at the right spot on the cab will sound phenomenal. You don't need a $1,000+ microphone to get a great guitar sound. Now, here's where I turn on you, buddy. And lastly, if the U87 is the most overrated, then the SM58 is the second most overrated. Okay, that's a hot take. It sounds fine, just fine. For just a bit more money, you can get the Beta 58A and get a sound with so much more clarity. Plenty of other options in the same price range as well and are just as sturdy. Actually, I've had more experiences with feedback using Beta 58As, and regular 58 sounds better than Beta 58A. Again, Beta 58A is, I think, around like $170. A regular SM58 is $100. You can beat the piss out of it, and it'll still work, and the thing takes a beating. If it's good enough that you see SM58s all over the Coachella stage, it's good enough for you. Like, get over yourself if you don't think the SM58 is good. Alan DeLeon 0526 writes, 3 hot takes off the top of my head. Tone wood is placebo, and by extension, bolt-on construction or neck-through construction is too. I'd argue that wood density, scale length, and electronics are going to be much larger factors. If you have a piece of 2 different woods that are... Alright, you get what he's saying. Especially if it's the same person playing the instrument. However, I will say you can have your preferences and different setups can influence how you play those instruments. I.e., if I play a Les Paul, I'm going to play a more bluesy, or a Telly if I'm going to play more country. I'm probably going to divide you guys here, but tone wood is... I'm in total agreement with here. The biggest significant factor in the sound of your guitar is the speaker in which your sound is coming out of. That is the single biggest significant difference in your sound. That followed by the amplifier that you're using. You can change the wood in your neck, the strings, the pickups, your pedals. You could change every single thing about the sound going to the speaker. If you change a speaker, you will significantly change the tone. And you don't need me to tell you that. Glenn Fricker has done countless videos on this theory, and he actually took the insane amount of time and effort to do a scientific difference between the points to prove this theory. So just go watch his videos, because I surely can't replicate it. But if you want to change your tone, change your speaker and see how much of a difference that makes for you. I say this as someone who mic'd thousands of guitar amps over the years. All right, Alan's not done yet. Tube amps are not the better than every other option. I've owned and used a huge assortment of amps, and while they are tube amps I love, I do not think they are better. Again, this is just an opinion. I'm not even going to read the rest of it, because what you're saying is just an opinion. I've heard plenty of amazing tube amps, and I've heard plenty of well dialed in modelers, and just put enough time and patience into it, and you can get any amp, regardless if it's tube, solid state, or fake, like a Kemper or Modeler. You can get anything sounding good with enough time and patience. But here's where he lost me, and here's where I went crazy. Raising Cane's chicken fingers is egregiously overhyped. Dude, come on. When your sauce and beverages are the highlight and not the thing that is the name on your restaurant, then you should probably fix a couple of things respectfully. I will agree to disagree with any point you may have on tube amps and modelers. I will agree to disagree with you on a couple of things, but Raising Cane's? Nah, man. Cane's is amazing. And we only just recently got Raising Cane's here in Jersey. We don't have, like, we didn't have Cane's before. We didn't have Bojangles. We didn't have any of these other, like, southern fast food places. And the first time I had Cane's, I was like, oh my God, this is a chicken tender that's not chipping my teeth because they're so, like, dry and hockey puck-like. Like, a Cane's chicken tender is light years better than a McDonald's chicken nugget. Cane's chicken tender, better than anything on the Popeyes menu. Now, even though I will say that KFC is better than Popeyes, Raising Cane's buries both of them, and it's not even close. I can go in, if I'm feeling super fat one day, I can go into a Cane's and get what they call the Caniac combo, which is 6 of those amazing tenders, big thing of fries, the garlic bread, and their coleslaw, which, by the way, coleslaw does not have to be good at a fast food place. I've had coleslaw at restaurants and delis that don't taste nearly as good as a coleslaw at Cane's, but I can get all of that food for less than 20 bucks. That's a stellar deal, and if I'm feeling super fat, I will get that, and I'm good the rest of the day. I don't need to eat anything else. Try this theory out next time you go out to eat. This is more so for the Jersey, New York diner people, but if you have like a local eatery, try their coleslaw, or try any other like throwaway condiment side dish thing. I've always lived by the motto of, if it's good coleslaw, it's a good diner. If you go to a diner and they put enough effort into making their most throwaway condiment taste good, the rest of the menu is going to be stellar. I don't care about any other fact about the restaurant. If it's good coleslaw, I know it's going to be a good diner. And I have never been wrong with that statement before. So try that next time. I know it sounds ridiculous, but go to a restaurant and try the coleslaw. If it's good, that means it's a good restaurant and you won't have a bad meal. And you can quote me on that. But also, you can also quote me saying Raising Cane's is amazing, and fuck you if you don't think so otherwise. Jesse Smiles with a C. I think click tracks are boring in live shows. Hearing a song be that much different than what comes out of a studio is part of the appeal of live shows to me. Yes! Thank you! Someone finally fucking gets it. I could not agree with this more. I personally can't stand it when bands have to rely so heavily on a computer to play a show that take out the computer and it destroys the whole show. I am on the side of Eddie Trunk with that. Although I do understand where Ronnie Radke comes from, and all the other bands that, you know, agree with him about laptops. I totally get it. If you have certain synthetic elements of, if you have like keyboards or orchestral parts or even just sound effects that go in your set and you need to play in sync with your computer, I totally understand it. It's just my personal preference that I'd rather hear a band just go upstage and play. Like, you listen to Blitzkrieg Bop and watch any live footage of the Ramones playing Blitzkrieg Bop. They play it 500 times faster live than they did in the studio. And who cares? It's the fucking Ramones. It's rock and roll. Like, I totally agree. I personally prefer bands just playing without the need of a click track. I love it. Robert McCracken, wholeheartedly agree with the U87 take. For music, I think the 58s are overrated. Again, I already explained the 58. If you want an affordable mic to go gigging with, get a V7. For films, I think this is where I'm like, oh my god. Because not only being from Jersey, but also the Italian in me. I think The Godfather is not only overrated, but also boring. Holy shit, dude. Really? The fucking Godfather? Boring and overrated? My man. I would love to know what movies you like then. If you're watching this, Robert McCracken, list your top 5 favorite movies in the comments. And let's talk here. Godfather boring? Oh my friend. No fucking way. That is a hot take. And our final hot take of the video, guys, comes from Dylan Waldner. Oh boy, this is going to be a good one. Hot take: if you start a band and decide to purchase a real amp instead of a modeler, you are making everyone's life harder and wasting your money. Real amps are... I can't even read this. Real amps are only... Real amps are only appropriate if you don't have the ability to use the PA for your guitar, or if you are afraid of technology / too lazy to learn. Holy shit! Holy shit, dude. What he's saying is all the years that Metallica used real amps before they switched to modelers, they're too lazy to learn technology. What he's saying is all of you guitar players out there that that use real amps are too lazy to learn a modeler. Here's a simple fact. Of all the years that I've been doing live sound and working with guitar players, I've had lazy guitar players that don't really know how to properly dial in a tune, but have a good enough sounding guitar and a good enough sounding amp and speaker cab combination where I was able to work with them and get a decent tone out of it. A modeler, you have to really focus on dialing in a good sound, because a modeler can sound extremely fake, extremely terrible, and grotesque and disgusting. I've heard far more crappy modeler amps in my days than crappy real amps. One of the low quality amps that always come in the venue, especially with young bands, is a Boss Katana. And I've worked with those amps enough where I know where the sweet spot is on those speakers, and I can put a 57 up there, get it dialed in, and be good instantly. An SM57 placed at the right spot on a Boss Katana with the EQ adjusted just a certain way, that will sound infinitely better than a very lazily put together modeler. So that my friend is a scorching hot take, and you nearly made me cough up my lungs with that. That's astounding. All right, guys, so that concludes this week's edition of Hot Take Tuesday. I hope this was fun for you guys to watch, as it was for me to read your scorching hot takes out there. Leave your comments below if you have a hot take of your own that you want to share, in the hopes that I read it in next week's video. Now, again, a hot take is not an opinion. Like, I prefer real amps over modelers, or I prefer modelers over real amps. That's not a hot take. A hot take is Olive Garden is a great representation of the culinary arts of Italy. Like, that is a hot take. And again, I'll use the example I used last week. A hot take is not, I'm tired of seeing the Kansas City Chiefs win. A hot take is, Patrick Mahomes isn't a good quarterback. Hope you guys had a good Super Bowl weekend. Stay safe out there. I've talked a lot. My throat's killing me. So I'm going to say goodbye, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.